the sea, an ever-changing and uncontrollable force of nature. Looking at the sea, I feel the aroma of pine trees, and often reflect on our history, the history of my people, from which I grew up and was evolved as a sculptor. The indigenous and unique history of the Latvian people, which I have embodied in traditional materials, granite, bronze, and wood. Although our history has also been dramatic, it has stood the test of time due to our unique ancestral heritage, passed down to us in folk songs, legends, and fables. Those fragments from the history of people's life are a rich foundation for the creation of images, for the monumental art of sculpture. Mankind has used stone, bronze, wood, or a combination of these to tell history for centuries. Metal, stone, and wood are what our material world is made of. For generations from these ancient materials, sculptors have been creating images and historical scenes, which they present to their peers and pass on to their descendants. My workshop has accumulated works of various genres. These are sketches, drafts, and small format sculptures, which then multiply or enlarge and fit in the urban environment or building interiors. The paradox of our art lies in the fact that to express intangible ideas and emotions, we use the longest-lasting materials that will live for centuries. Hence, in the age we live in, which is dominated by material values, a paradox is hidden in the sculpture. The matter creates immaterial feelings and emotions in the viewer. Working in different genres and in various materials, be it clay, plasticine or metal, wood or granite, I always try to find something unique to solve another plastic task, to convey rhythm, emotion, thus conveying to the viewer the ideas that are close to me and those people around, sometimes dramatically, sometimes pensively, but sometimes with light humor. I dare say the art of sculpture realizes one of the major tasks of building society. In his works, a sculptor can send a message for his peers and their successors, convey to people those ideas that are resonant to society. Riga is the city where I learned to be a sculptor, the city where I often visited as a child, and a large part of my memories connected with my godmother, who was my greatest support for studying art studies, are in Riga. Already then, while riding the trolleybus, I observed various places and hideaways of the city where larger or smaller sculptures could be installed. Walking through the streets of the old town, I imagined where the sculptures could be displayed and the history that I could tell in sculptures, both to Riga residents and visitors. Decorating the city, making it more attractive for the urban community and tourists, is a great opportunity for a sculptor to be useful to colleagues and make the city more attractive. In 2020, on the 135th anniversary of the Riga Center Humanitarian Secondary School, its graduates, teachers and students' parents gave the school a sculpture made by Barkans. A chestnut cast in bronze and placed on a large Latvian boulder in front of the school. As a parent and council representative, I believe that the urban environment should be enriched with understandable sculptures made in classical style and based on traditions. We, the school representatives, were inspired by the chestnuts that grow near the school, sung in the school anthem and depicted in the school logo. This sculpture will serve as a symbol of the school's long existence, friendship, strength and traditions to inspire future generations. The sculpture is also a means by which we create an understanding of the historical concept and introduce the residents and visitors to the traditions, legends, and fables of our people. In our youth, our roads and paths wind randomly, maybe even unconsciously. Only as time passes, they become a real treasure in the chest of our memories. Ogre railway station is one of my favourite childhood places, where we used to go sledding down the hill with my father on a snowy winter day. Later I took the train from there to study at the art high school in Riga. Pedestrian bridge over Ogre River. As a child, I ran over it so many times in my deeds and misdeeds. Now, after many years, I can make my hometown even more beautiful, both by decorating the Ogre railway station, in the square of which there is a sculpture of the mayor created by me, and by creating the key tree sculpture, where the newlyweds create their memories by locking the keys on the wedding day. In the urban environment, seeing sculptures crowded with youngsters sitting on benches inside their mobile devices, browsing what might be happening in the social environment, the artist has made us think how we look from the outside. What young people and other age groups stuck on social media look like. He has depicted it as a current problem so that we can see from the outside what it all looks like. On the other hand, these sculptures, which were created without faces, are like communication, which is not real and takes place in the internet environment. These sculptures show a great overall picture in daytime conditions, daytime environment, and also in the evening hours, where the device illuminates these sculptures, which is a very great solution to integrate the lights along with the sculpture. We are currently in the very centre of the city of Ogre, near the railway station, and every visitor to the city is welcomed by Julius Alberts Mazure, who was the first mayor of Ogre. Probably living and walking around in a daily routine, we don't think much about who these people were, those who once made the city. This sculpture was created by Barkans. Julius Alberts Mazure was the first mayor who unselfishly built the city, who travelled at his own expense to Scandinavia and other countries, studied how resort cities around the world develop and are formed, and then, after coming back to Ogre, partly also for his own means, he built this beautiful small town. Therefore, no wonder that in 1928, when President Gustav Zamgals granted this town city rights, Julius Alberts Mazure was elected as the first mayor. I'd like to emphasize here how important it is to see sculptures in cities, in the cultural environment that makes us remember these people, remember historical events, and understand how art is closely connected with history. Art makes us take a look at momentous events. One of my works is dedicated to the memory of the first mayor of the city of Ogre, Julius Alberts Mazure, in honour of this great man who suffered in a terrible period of history. One of the central squares in the city was created. Like many of our compatriots, Julius Alberts Mazure was also exiled with his whole family where his life's journey ended. While making this work, I searched a lot in archival materials, photographs, looking for the smallest details to create this image. I think the new generations need to know the historical events, the persons who have shaped our life as it is now. I believe that one of my sketches, dedicated to the most serious events in the history of Latvia, will be implemented in Riga or its surroundings. The rigours of the winter wind arouse sharp emotions in me, which at the same time inspired me to create a monument to the people who suffered and died in deportations. One of the sculptor's major tasks is to reflect and commemorate important events for the nation, including very harsh and tragic ones. The monument is a collection of feelings and experiences of many people. Among the most tragic pages in the history of the Latvian people are the repressions and deportations carried out by the communist regime. Living in a big city sometimes requires a break from its crazy rhythm. The sea, pines and nature fill me with strength and give me new ideas for my creativity, which I implement in my works. Periodically, I return to the sketches for the memorial to the victims of repression. Over time, there have been several tenders for a monument to victims of repression in Latvia, and several separate memorials have also been created. This is how my interpretation of such a monument was formed. Latvia has strong classical art traditions. This is visible not only in the city of Riga, but also throughout Latvia. There are present the values of classical, academic art. And I think we could also continue these traditions. Classical art has many different styles, different tastes, and we can develop the Latvian style, put it in our art. My teachers, when I studied at the Art Academy, rested upon academic traditions, passed them on to me, and now I try to pass them on to you through various means. The Academy preserves the continuity of traditions in the education of young artists. Thanks to the extensive experience of the Academy staff, students can professionally embody their boldest ideas in works of art during their training. Classical, monumental sculpture in Latvia has been strong and impressive for at least a century. These traditions continue today, which we see in the urban environment. Barkans has been embodying classical academic values and traditions in his art for several decades, passing them on to the next generations of young sculptors. The artist helps each student develop one's own individual creative style, one's own approach. Each image created by the students under the guidance of the maestro is original and unique. The sculptures of Barkans students are highly valued both at the Latvian Art Academy and any other art space. I'm very pleased to work at the same academy with such an excellent sculptor as Barkans. I also enjoy his artistic endeavour, in which I see so many familiar and pleasant motifs of playfulness and liveliness. His sculpture that is well understood and accepted by society, like a seaside beauty who accompanies everyone visiting Zintari Concert Hall. Every child is delighted by the sculpture of Munchausen, flying on a cannonball at the Dunte Museum. Not to mention a wonderful young woman by the Sports Centre in Tukum, who in postmodern colourful clothes demonstrates her easy attitude towards this small town of Kuzum. Barkans is both a modern and academic sculptor, and that is his strength, the ability to work in various styles. Or it is his ambition to make monuments and sculptures and busts of notable cultural figures. It is his, desire to express himself also in monumental sculpture, making monuments or some kind of public sculpture for public events, momentous events. All of this is still ahead of him, since the maturity that has been reached in Barkans' work allows it to be implemented. On the other hand, it is a pity that the monument of the King of Tango, Oskar Strock, in the monument competition held 5 to 6 years ago, was not implemented, in which Oskar Strock, romantically leaning against a lamppost, accompanied 2 tango dancers with his gaze. However, in the political sense, in the culture of political monuments, Barkans can record a wonderful victory for himself, with a monument to the politician, the founder of the Latvian state, Mikalim Valteram, in the Riga Forest Cemetery. I'm really pleased with the creative and pedagogical achievements of the sculptor, and I wish him a long life and good luck. In my lectures, design lessons and other disciplines, the skills that a sculptor must master, I always pay attention to the fact that the technology of making sculptures and the principles of material processing are not the most important thing. The most important thing is the idea which determines the choice of materials and technological processes. Teaching the young generation of sculptors to see ideas that will find a response in the hearts of the audience is the most important task of a teacher. If one of my students is able to continue the path that my teachers put in me, it means that my work as a teacher was successful, and I left behind the successors of our common cause, whose traditions were handed down to me by my teachers in their time. My teachers were Haris Sprinsis and Janis Bada. Later, during the academy, I was inspired by Ivan Mestrovich, Karl Milles, Rodin, Mayol and Michelangelo. Their legacy shaped me as a master hand, and I, in turn, share my accumulated experience to pass on to students. This is one of the education's missions, to create not only an image in stone, metal or wood, but also to raise a generation that will be able to create these images further. I hope that thanks to the contribution of the teachers of our academy, we will raise the next generation, the successors of our cause, who in turn will pass the baton to the students of theirs. In the design lessons, we learn to experiment with rhythm, plasticity, and lightness. In sculpture, you can discover unique themes that are native to our country and its culture only. I hope that I will fully master all the knowledge and gain the necessary experience and be able to implement it in urban sculpture. I'm attracted to topics that I could embody in pieces. I hope that my dreams will come true and I'll be able to contribute my skills to the culture of my country. I see the world through dimensional forms and visual communication, which in my view is very important between people. When we look at the human body, we learn not only proportions or detailed muscles, but try to convey an idea and a mood to the audience. The emotions that we learn to embody in various materials are the foundation for the meaning of each artist's activity. If the emotions embodied in clay or glass attract the attention of the audience, you've done the right thing. And I am pleased with the feedback, because this communication between me as an artist and the viewer has taken place. Sculptors need overarching knowledge, not only to get better in their art, which they learn during 6 years under the guidance of a professional, but also to have a comprehensively developed personality. We learn both design and anatomy. We are introduced to the history of painting and music, since these forms are interconnected. Good sculptors are first of all knowledgeable persons to be able to implement innovative ideas in their works. They need to know a lot about the world and their place in the universe. To be able to give a student the opportunity to create a profound piece of art, there are 2 things needed. It is painting as learning and practice in plastic color, and the form represented by sculpture. To be able to combine this requires a deep comprehension. It comes from the soul and heart of the students, and then their idea, the world's idea of art, the object of art, is formed. Since there is a trinity of painting, sculpture, and the creator himself, the artist is the student who creates this, and our purpose is to teach him so that he masters it. After classes with students at the Art Academy, I return to creative work in my studio. I am often visited by my colleagues, among whom is the artist Viktors Jansons. We discuss ideas for future works, which I depict in sketches to later be sculpted. Every meeting with colleagues is priceless. The cooperation of sculptors and artists gives an opportunity to enrich oneself and embody one's ideas even more fully in creation. A sculpture basically contains a whole series of materials that can interact with each other in the most surprising ways. For example, one of my favorite master's pieces of art is a portrait of a woman made of wood. In the sculpture, it is depicted with a plasticity of wood, so that it seems as if it has been washed away by a sea wave, even though oak is one of the hardest woods in Latvia. However, in the hands of a grand master, wood enchants with its warmth, softness, and plasticity of forms. At the same time, the combination of metal and wood looks very interesting. It seems to me that such eclecticism in small format works and fantasy in the embodiment of a female image greatly expands the concept of monumental sculpture in the master's artistic endeavor. In individual lessons in the master's workshop, we see the process of creating sculptures with the Grand Master himself in a creative atmosphere, which is a truly unique learning and creative experience. We try to catch some or other moments from the master that will be very useful in our further work. The master invests a piece of his creative spirit in each of us and leads us by his example to continue the individual path of the artist. The best experience is creating together. The teacher, by his example, gives us a clear understanding of the style we will take in our individual professional art. I am extremely grateful to my teacher for this invaluable experience. I think that the format of creating a sculpture is closely related to traditions. I, on the other hand, will try not to disappoint my teachers and take care that their work also continues to live on in my own artwork. One of my ideas is to capture in sculpture how movement and music merge in dance. In the famous composition Swan by Saint-Saëns, every time I immerse myself in the majestic music and the eternal dance composition in which the rhythm of dance, art, and music are united. I am very glad that the artist approached me to participate in this project, since I think it's a great opportunity. The symbiosis of music, dance, and art combines this set of artworks to create a special documentary. It is a great opportunity to show the general public that dance, music, and art are connected to each other. And these art genres are able to be together, and they always inspire people. The more we promote art, dance, music, the more they warm our hearts. Dance plasticity, ballet plasticity are always at the center of art, and any artist wants to depict a plastic body. And as far as a ballet figure, the most mentioned, the most beautiful, is the swan. The image of the swan is the image of any ballerina, and the highest standard to aspire to. The sculpture of a swan, this graceful bird in symbiosis with the music of Saint-Saëns, is one of the most beautiful representations of ballet dance that people see and watch, and which unites and shapes them. Therefore, this is a great pleasure and honor for me.
Tāpēc man šis ir liels prieks un pagodinājums.
We are currently located in Cintari, on Turaida Street, which connects the famous Cintari Concert Hall with the railway station. Here, the sculpture of Barkans, made in 2015, can be seen close to the viewer. The bronze image is dedicated to Turaida Rose, or Maye, the legendary character. However, the sculpture presents a contemporary view of the author, which is somewhat critical and somewhat humorous. Here we see a young contemporary woman, and it is also interesting to pay attention to the finely crafted details. The sculptural work is placed on the sidewalk, brought closer to the viewer, so it attracts the attention of passers-by, who are very happy to capture themselves together with the piece of art in a photo. Our dreams and ideas, which are embodied in sculptures, can be different, more or less successful, and the sculptures themselves can be bigger and smaller. But the most important thing is that our feelings and emotions put into each work should be real, live in time, and convey to people the history about us, about our ancestors who have survived a lot and who have kept the cultural heritage for future generations. I believe that the special nature of Latvia, its beauty, and the value of people who have lived through different times, everything that is depicted in my sculptures, will preserve my feelings and emotions for centuries. The voice of the sea wind will carry to our descendants the fragments of history which we immortalized in wood, stone and bronze, so that they will remember us and pass on stories and fables to their children.